Alright, so to start it off, I have made the executive decision that Arceus should just not be allowed on this list. Those stats are stats of a super legendary in a situation where every other mythical doesn't have them. And then back it up with 17 other forms? Yeah, no thank you. We're gonna make this fair, and we're just gonna knock out Arceus. Secondly, yes, Mythicals. There's certainly something. Nothing cooler than a Pokemon I need to get in a special event, instead of, in the actual game. That's the main difference. Legendaries are legends, and people know they exist, like Babe Ruth. Mythicals are just that, a myth. Their existence is unclear, and it's hard to tell if they're even real, like Bigfoot. They're like cryptids, and today, we're gonna rank the strongest cryptids. Except for God, the super cryptid. Hey, Pessimistic, you nearly forgot to do an honorable mention to a Pokemon that just missed the cut, but is still a very common and useful Pokemon. Make sure to tell people how good Volcanion is. Water Absorb and this type combo are gorked. If we were allowed to go off of lore, there's a real chance that this Pokemon is arguably the strongest allowed on this list. Keyword is arguably. Hoopa Unbound has done some pretty crack stuff, and its rings let you travel through space and can be used as a weapon to basically throw people into undesirable points in said space. Hoopa can hypothetically open one of its rings under you and then send you above a volcano, to the bottom of the ocean, or pretty much anywhere. Now, in-game, Hoopa Unbound is a pretty tough fellow too. Gargantuan attacking stats, and solid HP plus special defense. Its speed is a little shabby, but that's the nature of a wall breaker like this. And then the thing that holds it back, its physical defense stat of base 60. Of course, Psychic and Dark is also questionable when you can never switch in fear of a U-turn. But the base 60 defense means that just about any U-turn can kill you. And this wouldn't matter so much if it wasn't one of the most common attacks in singles. And sadly, it's just gonna find itself forced out if it takes any chip at all. Because stuff like Scizor and Crawdon are just waiting for it to be in range of their Aqua Jets and Bullet Punches. But hey, despite all of these flaws, it is one of the best wall breakers, so it has that going for it. Psychic, Hyperspace Fury, Drain Punch, Thunderbolt, Dark Pulse, and Knockoff are all excellent tools that let it play either physical or special attack. And you never really know the set until it hits you. Like a true magician, it's managed to be full of surprises. And like a real magician, if I punch one hard enough, I'll kick his ass. Alright, time to talk about the bane of my existence who I wished into the OU metagame for Gen 9. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Manaphy has a really solid pool of stats, all of them being base 100. This, of course, is technically not too great nowadays thanks to how gorked stuff gets, but Manaphy has the tools necessary to make this stat spread work. Offensive sets with Tail Glow and 3 attacking moves, notably Surf, Ice Beam, and your choice of coverage, are very scary. Bulky, but still offensive sets with Acid Armor, Take Heart, Scald, and Stored Power. This set is entirely dedicated to eating hits, boosting your stats, using Scald to fish for burns, and then using Stored Power with all these insane stat boosts to completely destroy the opponent who is foolish enough to stand in your way. Only having 2 weaknesses is really nice overall for this Pokemon. Although, admittedly, Electric and Grass have become more common nowadays thanks to Zapdos and Rillaboom already existing, plus Ogerpon joining the fray. All these mons are also amazing, mind you. Diancie is one of those Pokemon that looks very unassuming. It's an adorable Scrungus. I feel like I can pick one up and hug it more than anything else. However, it turns out that it can launch literally waves of diamonds at you as a signature attack. And while that doesn't sound too strong, have you ever had a rock thrown at you? that stuff hurts. Don't know how it plans to make use of it with these base 100 attacking stats, which means it'll have trouble doing real damage in comparison to the other strong mythicals. But those base 150 defenses are useful for making sure you get Stealth Rock up, a turn to set Trick Room, or an excuse to just use Body Press. It's got offensive tools like Diamond Storm, Moonblast, Mystical Fire, Earth Power, and Calm Mind to back those up. But I'm not seeing a real use for all this offensive coverage. Well, I am now seeing a use for all this offensive coverage. Alright, break time. I need to go mess around with this in Nat Dex. I just hope that people don't make the constant mistake of Mega Evolving it against a Pokemon with higher speed and a ridiculous attack stat, and then instantly lose their Mega. You're supposed to Mega this against hazard setters that take advantage of Magic Bounce, damn it. Look, you know how I feel about Melmetal. Bro comes in, and he simply just does. When I think of excellent, amazing wall breakers, I think of Crawdon. But after that, I think of Melmetal. It has the tools at its disposal to be one of the most threatening Pokemon of all time. An amazing typing, amazing bulk, even if the special defense is shabby, and a gargantuan attack stat with a steel stab that breaks Focus Sash and is effectively base 120 power. And, hypothetically, if you were to play it in Trick Room, said double Iron Bash has a 30% chance to flinch for each hit. And with that slow speed in Trick Room, it's going to be faster and threatening flinches if not OHKOs. Melmetal is a demon. And it's the embodiment of the Trick Room Pokemon. It is perfectly designed in every possible way for what it set out to do. And what it set out to do is go unga bunga. Thunder Punch, Earthquake, Ice Punch, and Superpower are all good coverage. And it even gets T-Wave if it wants to be that guy for any reason as support. It's customizable with its item too, as it can be Choice Band, Leftovers, or Assault Vest, and pretty much be good at all of them. I like to imagine it'll have a very wholesome friendship with Ursaluna once they inevitably exist in the same space. A giant metal beast and its adorable pet bear. Now that is a killer combination. It may be the strongest non-Arceus bug, but it's sadly not the strongest mythical. It really lets you know just how bad Bug has it, because even their strongest bugs can't reach the level of some of the more stupid dumb threats that have been known specifically for causing problems up in the big leagues. Now, last time I mentioned it in the recent strongest bug video, I didn't talk about its signature move Technoblast, or those drives. And I still won't. They're very cool and awesome and all, but the drives take up an item slot. And so Technoblast goes out the window for being strong. And this is a list about power. So we're gonna talk about the things that people have used to good effect on it. Like U-Turn, its excessive coverage move pull with Blaze Kick and Bolt Beam coverage, its excellent typing, and of course its magnificent stat spread. Now, I love Technoblast, but running it and a drive means that I have to not play Life Orb, Leftovers, Choice Band, or Choice Scarf. And that's just not a world I want to live in. Darkrai would probably just be number 1 on this list, but they nerfed Dark Void, and then its usage in Ubers plummeted off the face of the earth. I'm glad it's a common criticism from us to Game Freak that they shouldn't have nerfed Dark Void for Smeargle's sins, and should have just stuck to making sure Smeargle couldn't use the move. But we have to make do. And the nerf sadly did kill whatever viability Darkrai had in Ubers. But make no mistake, it is still a very good Pokemon, albeit for a very simple reason. Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and your choice of Thunderbolt or Sludge Bomb. I'll typically gravitate towards Sludge Bomb to hit fairies, and just pray I never see Magearna. With incredibly good special attack and speed, but sadly not good defenses, I found myself playing Focus Sash when using it and just trying to keep hazards off the field. but that's risky in its own right, so don't be surprised if that's more difficult than anticipated. Admittedly, what stops it from being useful isn't even just the lack of good Dark Void, but because Chien-Pao and Chi-Yu exist and are better than it. Marshadow kind of has the benefit of being physical Darkrai. Don't believe me? Look at this stat spread. While obviously not a carbon copy, otherwise Marshadow would have had base 135 attack. And believe me, that would be scary as hell. You can see that they are very similar in regards to how they play, just with their specialties being reversed. Marshadow punches you in the face, while Darkrai spams projectiles. So, despite technically having a lower attack stat than Darkrai's special defense, what makes Marshadow better than Darkrai to me? Marshadow just has more stuff to work with. Spectral Thief is insane, and being able to steal the stat boost before dealing the damage means that you can catch a Pokemon that just used Swords Dance Slacking and then hit him with the It can also just kind of mix and match whatever tools it wants to use. It's got Close Combat, Blaze Kick, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Poltergeist, and Bulk Up for offense, as well as Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave, and Knockoff for utility. Very much a Mon that can just do what it wants. Unless you're in Ubers, in which case you may want to just stick to firing off big strong hits. If anything is even faster than you, pray that Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch can revenge kill. Okay, Mystic, are you sure you're not overhyping Shaymin a little too much? It's just some pure grass type with the base 100 stat across the board type, dude. It can't do that much. And you're right, until you give it a bouquet of oddly specific flowers. And suddenly Shaymin becomes a fiend that outspeeds every Pokemon on this list so far, and forces them to run in fear of Air Slashes and Seed Flares. Keep in mind, these Air Slashes and Seed Flares are buffed by Serene Grace, doubling their effect chance. So, Seed Flare now has an 80% chance to lower your special defense by 2 stages. And the Air Slash has a 60% chance to flinch, all coming off of that 120 special attack and speed of 127. But what about Ice Shard? Switch out. And to threaten my machines, my beautiful creations, it has Earth Power. The 4th slot? Just run whatever you want. Probably substitute the Cactus Switch or Synthesis for recovery. I hate that hedgehog. That was a pretty bad Eggman impression, wasn't it? I mean, it's Magearna. It literally showed up to the new Uber's underused format and pretty much said, I will be the best Pokemon in this new unofficial tier, and then rolled up with the same nonsense it's always done. Steel and Fairy is an excellent type combination, Soul Heart is an excellent ability, and with these powers combined, it will just run whatever set it feels like. Calm Mind in Iron Defense with Draining Kiss and stored power, Shift Gear in Calm Mind for a faster, more offensive stored power, Hazard Stack with Volt Switch, Trick Room. There's even a set that I forgot about that I'll eventually run into, lose to it, and then sit there wondering to myself, how could I forget something this powerful? It's Magearna being Magearna, and it will continue to be Magearna. Now, maybe I'm just brutally incorrect here, but last I checked, Deoxys always had a use in Ubers for when it was in Ubers. While it's not the best in said tier, I mean, none of these guys are. It's been kind of a common occurrence from this list that none of the Mythicals here are on that kind of level, sadly. Darkrai was, but then Game Freak took that away from it. Now, what does Deoxys do exactly? Well, it depends on what 2 forms you use. Wait, what do you mean 2? There are 4. No, there are 2. Deoxys Normal is just worse Deoxys Attack, and Deoxys Defense is unfortunately very, very bad. If you do play it, you're doing recover and defensive moves, which many other Pokemon do better. So your real options are kind of attack and speed. Deoxys Speed is a hazard setter, but it's not just any hazard setter. It is notoriously the hazard setter. Nothing outspeeds it, so there's no taunting it without grabbing a niche Prankstermon that has no reason to climb into Ubers. And a lot of the hazard game has just been trying to undo what Deoxys Speed does, because its ability to get up rocks and a layer of spikes before leaving is unprecedented, and teaming up with a good spin blocker means that its work will never be removed. The Deoxys Speed Mirror is truly a matchup in history. As for Deoxys Attack, well, clearly it plays Toxic, Protect, Recover, and an attacking move while holding leftovers. What else would it be doing with that base 180 in its attacks and blazing fast 150 speed? 150 speed, by the way, which was, back then, highly unnecessary because the Ubers didn't even approach that kind of speed tier until Gen 8 with Calyrex Shadow Rider. Nowadays, if it were integrated into the meta, it would probably exist solely to tell Miraidon and Koraidon that they aren't like that, and then blast them with Psychic, Ice Beam, and then 2 other moves of its choice for whatever other metagame threats it feels like blasting into pieces. Well, that was actually fun to cover. Although, admittedly, it does make me feel a little bad that not very many of the Mythicals get to go on to be slapping the Uber Legendaries around the way Darkrai used to. But this is where the question comes into play. If there was a Mythical you could buff so it could be as good as the stronger Legendaries, who would it be? Personally, I think it's time that Mew gets some kind of new form or something. But that's just my take. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later.